And the only thing I could hear the other sonographer say was, yeah, that is definitely open. I think she needs to see a consultant right away. Hi, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Boys Mama's YouTube channel. I am the Boys Mama, and I'm super excited to come back to you with yet another episode. To all of my returning subscribers, you guys are amazing. I cannot stop thanking you. I feel that you guys are doing so much, but when I upload another video, you always outdo yourself. Thank you for all the likes, the comments, the ideas, everything. I am so grateful to all of you. Please, your support means the world to me. So do not relent in supporting me. Continue to share this video as well, like, and do not forget to leave me a beautiful comment and I'll be sure to reply to all of them. If you've just chanced on this video, you're not too late. You haven't missed too much, but we missed you. Welcome to the Voice Mama's YouTube channel. So this is a YouTube channel where we talk about everything faith. This channel hopes to inspire you, encourage you, and uplift you. Most importantly, educate you. So if any of these things tickle your interest, you are at the right place. Kindly hit the subscribe button, like this video, leave me a beautiful comment, and do not forget to share to everybody you know. So this is a part 2 of the video I did the last time. It's basically the continuation of my story, the one I'm hoping to build your faith and trust in God with. So if you haven't seen the part 1, don't worry, it's still on this channel and I'll leave the link to it in the description box. I'm sure you'd all recall in the first video that I talked about everything that led up to my being pregnant, how I got a very scary diagnosis which threatened my getting pregnant, how God came through for me, how I was resilient in prayers, and how those prayers paid off. So I'm going to continue from when I got pregnant and everything that happened, how God again showed himself mighty during my pregnancy journey. Let's go on this jolly ride, shall we? We often celebrate the miracle of childbirth, yet we seldom acknowledge all the battles, the silent ones that many go through, the complications, the emotional upheavals, and even the resilience that is required to bring a child into this world. The narrative of effortless pregnancy often overshadows the reality that, for some, every day is a testament of true strength in adversity. This was my story when I got pregnant. As indicated earlier in the first video, I had always dreamt of having my own children. And so when I finally got pregnant, I was so ecstatic and I looked forward to everything that was going to happen. Nobody can predict how pregnancy is going to change them, how it's going to affect their body, emotionally, physically, all the colors. Until you've actually experienced pregnancy, it is difficult for somebody to really explain how it feels. One of those things you need to experience firsthand to truly, really understand, which is why I pray for every woman to be given the fruit of the womb. First trimester for me was all that. It was really exciting. I was anticipating morning sickness, nausea, vomiting, but I didn't have any of those. I was super duper comfortable. The only thing that was a bit off for me was I couldn't eat as much as I'd wanted to. Google and my big sister, who is a midwife, were the two things that I consulted the most during my first trimester, especially Google. I could Google something as silly as, is it okay for a pregnant woman to brush her teeth in the morning? I know, I could Google anything and everything and trust Google to give you very scary answers. I use this opportunity to tell you, if you are a new mom or if you're searching for anything on Google, most of the answers there are just replies from people. So it's not scientifically proven. So you do want to speak to a professional. Do not take Google to heart too much. So Dr. Google had admonished me that the first trimester is like the formative days for the embryo, and that everything that you do in the first trimester is crucial to the development. So everything I did was literally calculated. I mean, these are my precious babies. I didn't want anything to happen to them. Google again told me that second trimester is everybody's favorite because you get to eat as much as you want. Everything is a bit more relaxed. I mean, you are past the formative days, so you can, relax a bit. So I was looking forward to second trimester like my life depended on it. In my head, I was like, if first trimester, which is supposedly the difficult one, was this easy for me, then second trimester is going to be chicken change. So I was really, really looking forward to second trimester. Nothing could prepare me for the journey ahead. So I'm told in every pregnancy you have at least two scans. The first one is a dating scan, which determines how many gestational weeks you are at and the possible dates that you could give birth. That's the EDD, estimated date of delivery. And the second one is the anomaly scan, which detects any physical abnormalities with the baby inside of you. So every normal pregnancy has two scans, except it's a high-risk pregnancy. For high-risk pregnancies, you will be offered more than two scans because it's a bit more complicated. And what qualifies as a high-risk pregnancy is twin pregnancy, having certain illness during pregnancy. If you are below 17 or above 35, your pregnancy will be considered high risk. If you have a very high weight or a very low weight just before getting pregnant, all these things and some other factors which I haven't been able to mention are the things that when present makes your pregnancy qualify as a high risk pregnancy. For me, I had a twin pregnancy, so it was a high risk. And that invariably meant that I was going to be offered more than two scans. But I kid you not, the number of scans I had all through my pregnancy could sum up to 10. So if you would remember, we had already had a private scan. So that doesn't qualify to be part of the two scans that we were supposed to have. So on our first consultation with a midwife and subsequently a consultant, we were told about the possibility of the twins coming early because it is quite common in twin pregnancies for them to make a very early entrance. So we're told of that possibility, and then we're told of the reality that we might have to have more scans just to make sure that everything is going on well and the children as well as myself are safe. We were scheduled to have the first scan, which was very exciting, and we went, which is a dating scan, and everything was okay. Everything looked normal. Everything looked nice. And we're given our EDD, which I've explained earlier on, is estimated date of delivery. So according to the scan, my EDD was 14th of June, and my husband was happy because June is his birth month. So we eventually got a date for the second scan, the normal second scan for every pregnancy, which is the anomaly scan. And mine was a bit earlier. I think I was around 19 weeks and some days, but I think that was the only time they could schedule it because of their availability. We were both looking forward to that day with so much anticipation because we weren't only going to find out if everything was okay with the boys. We didn't know they were boys at the time. We were going to find out their sex as well, which was super excited for me. If you know me, you would know that I'm a super crazy girl child fan. And if you listen carefully in the first video, I did mention that I was praying to God to specifically give me twin girls and their siblings, which is why I was so sure that my children were girls. Once again, I turned to Google to find out how I would be able to determine the sex of the babies even before we went for the scan, and trust Google to give me very weird suggestions. Some of them said if you're craving sweets, that means it's a girl. If you're craving salty things, that means it's a boy. I intentionally started craving sweets because I really, really wanted a girl. Another thing Google mentioned was the shape of your pregnancy. How your bump looked. I've forgotten exactly what it said, but I remember it saying that if it looked a certain type of way, then it's a girl. I would spend hours on end in the mirror examining the exact shape of my bump. Apparently, all of these are midwife tales and they have no scientific correlation to them whatsoever. But I trusted it. I so believed it. Also, I had so much trust in God that God was going to meet me up and He was going to meet His side of the bargain, because He has said in His word that if you trust the Lord, He will give you the desires of your heart. And I wholeheartedly trusted Him. And I had already prayed so many times about it, specifically asking for a girl. So I thought to myself, even if both of them aren't girls, at least there should be one girl in there. So we went about our normal day-to-day activities, still bidding time in great anticipation of the anomaly scan, which was also going to tell us the sex of the babies. Just a day before we went to have the anomaly scan, I remember that day so well. I think it was a Thursday, and it was the period in which Seventh-day Adventists were doing their 10 days prayer and fasting. We couldn't go to church every night, but we made sure to join a live church every night. So we'd sit in the hall as a young couple and would watch the program from start to finish and pray along with them. The program had just started, and obviously we started an opening hymn. So just before we finished singing the opening hymn, my husband had a call, and I think it was from his mother. And he picked up the phone and said, "We have just started praying, so I'm going to call you right after we are done," and then hung up. Just after he hung up, his mother called again, which is so unlike her, because usually once we tell her that we are praying, she would just give some few minutes, or she would even wait for us to call her back. So for her to have called back after he had said that we're praying, it was a bit unsettling for me. So this time he picked and he was trying to listen to what she was saying. I could even hear her from where I sat. She was just shouting, "Something is happening to your dad, something is happening to your dad." So we are rushing him to the hospital. In that instant, everything changed. His face, everything, his demeanor, everything changed. I mean, it was obvious there was something going on. And just after she said that, I think somebody took the phone from her, or I think my husband said he wanted to speak with somebody else. And the person said to call him on his own number, not on his mother's number, if that makes sense. Long story short, when they rushed my father-in-law to the hospital, he died. So we were hit with the news of my father-in-law's death just a day before our anomaly scan. My husband was devastated, as he should be, but trust him to act all manly and pretend he was doing just okay. But he was definitely hurt, and I could sense it. It was one of the longest nights of our married life. The following day, which was the much anticipated day, we went for the scan with little hopes. Well, we're still looking forward to finding out the sex of the children and all that, but there was this sense of melancholy on all of us. So with a lot of grief in our hearts, we went for the scan. The sonographer was a lady, so I lied down for the scan. And she did the anomaly thing first. She looked at the first baby, everything was okay. Looked at the second one, everything was okay. So that was a piece of good news, at least something to smile about. We're happy. And then she went on to find out the sex. So she asked, "Do you want to find out the sex, or you want it to come as a surprise?" In my head, I was like, "Surprise? Why would I want to be surprised? Tell me now." She blurted out, "We have a little man in there." I was like, "Okay, so at least I would have a girl then. I mean, if I don't have two girls, that's okay. I can have a boy and a girl. I can live with that." Before I could say Jack, she continued, "And there is another little man." My face dropped. "What are you talking about?" That certainly can't be right, I thought to myself. I had this quizzical look on my face, as if I was questioning her capabilities. I'm sure she saw it and she was like, "Is everything okay?" And my husband said, "Oh, she was expecting girls, or at least a girl, that's why." And she said something in the most sarcastic way. "You should be happy that everything is okay with them and not think about their sex." Really? I think their sex is important as well. I dread saying this, but I cried. I really cried. All over again, I felt God had disappointed me. I felt that He had betrayed me. He did not keep His end of the bargain. Why does He keep doing this to me? I thought to myself. I asked to be excused. I went to the toilet to have a moment to myself, and God, I cried even more. I was just crying and crying. I went to stand in front of a mirror, looking at my bum, talking over it, and saying all sort of things. I'm not proud of those things, so I would not mention them here. At this point, I would like to admonish all of us to be mindful of what we say in these kind of situations. In the situations when we feel God has disappointed us, when we feel God has left us, when we feel that God has actually let us down, we should be mindful of everything that we say. You know, the devil is a very cunning creature. So when he feels that we are at our vulnerable point, he creeps into your mind and then tells you all sorts of things. And if you are not resilient, you will just say something that you're going to regret later. So we need to be very mindful because God is a good God and He always has a plan. He has promised us that what eyes have not seen, what ears have not heard, what has not entered into the heart of any man before is what He has planned for us. Such reassurance. And He has also told us that He knows the plans that He has for us, thought of good, not of evil, to bring us to an expected end. I know you might feel that this path you're taking is not the right one for you. I mean, you don't see why you should be walking in all these crooked ways when somebody who doesn't even know God is going through all the straight line. That is not for you to decipher. God knows everything. Like my husband says, He is the master planner. Just trust in His planning. Dealing with disappointment is a great topic for Christians, and I feel we don't explore that side of the Christian life enough because it's easier said than done. If you haven't been in that situation, it is so easy for you to admonish the person. But once you are in the situation, it's like all your senses just run away. All these things, you don't even remember, you know, all of these things. So we need to talk about disappointing moments, I think, a lot more as Christians, and how to deal with all of these things, because dealing with disappointment is a lot. It's a big lot. So after crying for a while, I came back to the room because we hadn't finished with the scan. I think she wanted to do something small, measure the cervix and some other things. And my poor husband, he had just learnt of the passing of his father the previous day, and he had to console his wife, who was disappointed in God. It wasn't a nice spot for him, I know. But he tried. He gave some very dry jokes, which for the record wasn't funny. I did giggle here and there just to boost his ego. We went into the next part of the scan, and again, this lady was making some faces as if to say there's something wrong. And then before I could ask what was going on, she just said, "Oh, I need somebody to come and confirm something else from you, so just give me 1 second." She didn't even wait for us to ask questions, and she just left, came back with another sonographer. And the only thing I could hear the other sonographer say was, "Yeah, that is definitely open. I think she needs to see a consultant right away." What's going on? I looked up at my husband and asked that question as if he knew. And when they eventually spoke, it was heartbreaking. So they said that my cervix was opened. And once the cervix is open, it means that the body is ready for labor. So they were asking for other signs of labor, if I was seeing any other signs of labor. All of them I answered in the negative, and they were a bit confused and said I needed to see a consultant as soon as possible. We went to see the consultant with the pictures of the scan, and he was so concerned. He said that it's a good thing that we came today, because if we didn't, I could have just given birth, and at 19 weeks, he said he wasn't sure the boys were going to survive. So the consultant suggested that we went into surgery as soon as possible to put a stitch around my cervix, which is called cerclage, to prevent further signs of labor setting in and eventually the expulsion of the fetuses. It was scary. I had never done a surgery in my life before, so I was so scared. And it was so impromptu. I mean, we're just coming for a scan, not for a surgery. And so I vehemently opposed. I also did what I do best, cry. I cried a river. I was crying so much. And my poor husband, he had to console me and had to try and uplift me when he needed upliftment himself. So the consultant said he was going to leave us to make a decision, but he would strongly recommend the surgery because that was the best option for a twin pregnancy. He also gave us the option of a cyclogist, which is like a suppository which I would be inserting, and that could also help prevent the expulsion of the fetus. But what he did add was the fact that cyclogens hasn't been proven to help with twin pregnancy, so it would just be like a try and error something. So he would definitely recommend the surgery. I still stood by my decision of not going to surgery. I was very scared. I don't know why, but I was really scared of going to surgery. And so I thought that using the cyclogest alone is going to be enough. And again, I believed in God to help me. A friend of mine had recommended a book about giving birth and having children. I don't remember the title exactly. I'll try and find it and put it on the screen. And I had been reading it and claiming the promises in that book. One of those promises in the book was about fear. I think Second Timothy, there's a portion of Second Timothy, I don't remember that as well. I'll try and find it and put it on the screen, which says, "For God has not given us the spirit of fear, of timidity, but of power, of love, and of sound mind." So the book was telling us to personalize that quotation, and whenever we are afraid, especially in our pregnancy journey, we just quote it and say, "I am a child of God, and so I am not afraid. And God has given me the spirit of power, of love, and of sound mind. So nothing is going to happen to me." So at that point, I kept reciting it and telling myself that God is with me, nothing is going to happen. I'll just take the cyclogest option and everything will be fine. My husband didn't agree with me on the cyclogest option because the doctor had obviously said it's not proven to help in twin pregnancy. So it was up to him to try and convince me, and he wasn't doing a good job. So he called my sister, who is a midwife, and asked her to try and convince me. My sister also started talking and tried to convince me. I was just too scared to have a surgery. I don't know if it's because I had never had a surgery before, or I just don't know, but I just didn't want to go to surgery. I felt it was too much of a rush, and maybe we just do the cycle just for some few months and see how it goes. So my sister asked exactly what my fears were and tried to allay those fears. And she also spoke with a consultant and asked a lot of questions. I mean, what's going to happen if the cerclage doesn't hold? What is the probability the cerclage is going to? I mean, she asked a lot of questions, and I somehow felt reassured after that question and answer between my sister and the consultant. And I felt like, okay, let's just have the surgery. So right there, I was booked, consented for surgery that very day. Everything was just happening at once. Mind you, I had just found out that I wasn't having any girl. I was having two boys. And then I'd found out that my cervix was opening, which is a sign of labor. And now I had to go into surgery. It was so much for me. And everything was just happening so fast, and I felt so overwhelmed. But I'm so thankful for my husband. He was very, very supportive. He held my hand through it all, right from when the consultant was speaking to me, when I was being consented, up to the surgery room, when I had my anesthesia, when the cerclage was going on. He held my hand through it all. So the cerclage didn't take too long, and I was transferred to the ward, and I needed to stay overnight because I had undergone the surgery through a general anesthesia. So they needed to make sure the anesthesia had completely worn off before I was left to go home. Let me say this, the consultant who did the cerclage, we did not meet him again throughout the pregnancy, even till the boys were born. It was so strange. Another consultant came to see me after the cerclage, and she was explaining that having a cerclage alone is not proven to help even with twin pregnancies. So she would advise that we still add the cyclogest. Oh my days, I thought to myself, there I was thinking of choosing the cyclogest alone as an option that was going to help keep the pregnancy. And here she was telling me that even the cerclage, which was a better option, was not enough on its own to keep the pregnancy. And I would have to add the cyclogest as another layer of protection. You can just imagine how woefully inadequate the cyclogest alone would have been in keeping the pregnancy. At that point, I was so thankful for my husband and my sister, and I was so proud of them for managing to convince me to do the cerclage. I was really, really indebted. In Matthew chapter 10, verse 16, God tells us that He's sending us to the world of wolves, and He was admonishing us to be as shrewd as snakes and not as innocent as doves. So God knows that the world out there is a scary one. That is why He's saying that we need to be as shrewd, sharp-witted, astute. We need to be very, very vigilant as a snake would be, and not as innocent as a dove. So many times we are faced with decisions that can make or unmake us. And that is the point where we need to remember this quotation, that we need to be as shrewd as snakes. If you're not careful and you make a rash decision, it's going to cost you an entire life. And the sad thing is, it's not going to affect only you, it's going to affect a lot of other people, people around you, your community, your family. So we need to be very, very vigilant as Christians. In my case, if I had rushed to make the decision of choosing just a psychologist, you can just imagine how that would have ended for me. I think the events of the day had made my husband forget a bit about his father's demise. And he was a bit relaxed and he wasn't thinking too much, which meant he wasn't too sad, which was a good thing. I was subsequently discharged after the circlage, and I had to come for a scan for them to ascertain what the circlage has been able to do with regards to holding the pregnancy. So at least once every week, I'd come to the hospital and have a scan, and not just a normal ultrasound, but a transvaginal scan where they inserted like a speculum inside the vagina just so they could have a clear picture of how the circlage is looking, if the cervix is opening again, or if there's been any other signs of labor setting in. And I had this every other week. It was absolutely draining, but it was for a worthy cause, so I couldn't complain. And my husband was always there on all of the scans. He never missed one of those appointments, never. We continued for about 4 or 5 weeks, and the doctor said they were happy with the progress, and so they were going to space it out a bit. So maybe I would have it once a month instead of once every week. They also told me that at this point, even the cyclage can't be trusted. It's just a thing of what the boys want to do and when they do want to come. So I should just be on the lookout for signs of labor, and I should prepare at this point that I can have the boys at any time. That was scary. I had about 6 pregnancy apps, and every week I'd go to each of those apps and look at where the development of the fetus was, and I would Google to find out if at that age they could be born and be healthy. It was so much work, but I kept doing it and I was consistent every other week. My husband and I were so sure that we were going to carry them to term at least 36 weeks. That's what I kept telling myself. And I kept counting the day, every day minus one day, because we're told that they could come at any time and we should be prepared to have them at any time. So every day was a miracle for us. So this is where I would leave you for now, right after the cyclage, where things felt like they were finally settling, where it felt like we could breathe a little, but the road ahead wasn't smooth. In my next episode, I'll be sharing how everything changed, how unexpected complications turned our world upside down even before the third trimester began. It is the part of the story that tested everything: our faith, our hope, and our strength. You do not want to miss it. Ideally, this is the part where we delve straight into sleigh seats with the boy's mama. However, that segment is not happening today due to some very few glitches here and there. We are promising to bring it back on the next episode. So until next time, has been, and shall always remain the boy's mama. See you in my next video. Bye.